All right, we're very excited to have Dominique Moceanu with us today. She's going to be the Grand Marshal of the 76th Annual Parade of Flags at One World Day next Sunday, August 28th. Good morning, Dominique. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
You know, before we talk about the event, today's August 22nd, and I know, can you tell us where you were on August 18th back in 1995? It was a big day.
Yeah, it was a big day for Team USA women's gymnastics. That period of time really changed the landscape of women's gymnastics in the United States. They had never won a gold medal. And so we were the first U.S. women's team winning that gold medal and dubbed the Magnificent Seven by our journalist peers here. And it was a really magnificent moment and changed all of gymnastics for many, many years to come. We were that gold standard to show children in our sport and young aspiring gymnasts that, hey, this is possible for the women to win gold. It's possible for you to win gold if you have that dream. And I believe the gymnastics business went booming after that. We heard from a lot of gym owners that enrollment peaked tremendously after that time period, and it was a great time for gymnastics and the sport itself, but not only that, the inspiration that followed it and the gold standard that we set for many, many years to come.
And you were so young and really so small then. I believe you were the last gymnast to compete legally at the age of 14. But even before that, the year before, August 18th, 1995, you personally set another milestone. You became the youngest national champ, right?
Yes. So my recollection is we won in July 23rd. My apologies. You said August, and my brain jumped right to July because the Olympics were on my mind. But yes, in August, I certainly had become the youngest senior national champion in history. And to this date, I still hold that title. So it's a very special time. All of it kind of goes, hand in hand. It goes to nationals, and then you go to Olympic trials, and then the Olympics. So July and August are always very busy for us Olympians during that Olympic year cycle. And when you're trying to make the Olympic team, and being the national champion right before the Olympics and leading into it is really kind of setting the stage for all eyes on you kind of thing.
Exactly. I was watching some YouTube videos from that national championship, and you were flying on the balance beam. You were flying in the floor exercise and sticking your landings. It was just incredible. And when you think you were 13 years old, I mean, does it seem like it was 100 years ago or just yesterday?
There are times where it feels like, oh my goodness, that was so many moons ago. And it really was. But there are times where I can close my eyes and I can still envision what that arena looked like. I can still envision my routines. I still know what it felt like. I know what the pressure felt like. But I thrived on that. I was one of those young athletes who could handle it. And it was never that I couldn't handle it. It was, a lot of outside other circumstances that kind of affected my training. But I'm forever grateful that I somehow survived all of that and training 40 hours a week at 10 years old and basically became a full-time job. And when I see our athletes here are training 20 hours, I used to tell them, hey, we used to train 40 and they can't even comprehend what that was like. And I say, well, it's not necessary for you, but just to give you an idea of what we trained like, how many routines we did. Again, there's a times where it feels like forever ago, but then there are times I can close my eyes and I can feel what I felt back then, all those years ago.
You were a hero and an inspiration to so many young girls and others with your gymnastics, and then later in your career through teaching and speaking out on some of the problems in the gymnastics world in front of the Senate and other places. Do you have any words of advice for young girls who want to be the next Dominique Moceanu?
Well, I want to encourage everyone to be the best that they can be every single day and surround themselves with great individuals who can accomplish, those goals with you, who can help you get those goals accomplished. So surround yourself with great people. Try to block out the naysayers. There's always going to be people that doubt you or critique you. This is a sport that's heavily criticized. And also it's a very subjective sport. You're judged. Every little movement is very critiqued. So remember to not be overly harsh on yourself. It's a long journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so you have to take your time with any big goal you accomplish in life, not only gymnastics, but really one of the most important things over the years I've learned is who you surround yourself with really makes all the difference. Because if you surround yourself by, with people that are doers, that are going to encourage and uplift you, you're going to start feeling that connection and that energy. The energy you surround yourself cannot be toxic as you're working towards your goals. Now, it's possible to be an anomaly and be one of those rare people who can have really, unique circumstances, and then you push through it anyway and you can survive. Like, I consider myself a very unique circumstance because I had everything going against me to fail. But somehow I pushed through. And when I look back, I almost can't believe that I did push through all of it. And I asked myself, why? What was the difference? And I was, first of all, very determined to succeed no matter what. I wasn't going to listen to people who pulled me down, people who said it was impossible to win a gold medal at 14. It's not going to happen. Your dream is just a pipe dream. How, you know what I mean? And those kinds of things can really be demoralizing for a young adolescent teen. You're a very fragile and vulnerable at times at those ages, and you're just trying to fit in high school, much less have the weight of the world on your shoulders. So one of my biggest pieces of advice is just surround yourself with great people, surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you, uplift you, but also you have to put in the daily grind. You have to put in that hard work, whether it's gymnastics, academics, anything. If you can outwork others, you will start to climb. And you have to also remember, another thing I learned along the way is the gift of goodbye. If people are no longer serving you in a good, healthy way in your life, as hard as it may be, we've had to turn that chapter and close that door and do the gift of goodbye for your mental health, for your well-being. And honestly, sometimes it's a big weight lifted where somebody is pulling you down in your life. Now, obviously, there are rare situations for each of these examples, so where there's a caveat, but for the most part, you work hard, you're disciplined, surround yourself with good people, and remember to, be confident even when it's hard to be. Believe in yourself, because that belief is what's going to take you through to the finish line when everything else is crumbling around you and you feel like it's not possible. Always know that there's a big test before the final product is finished. If that makes sense, there's always some big physical, mental test before you achieve your goal. For me, I had my stress fracture right before the Olympics, and before I opened up a business, there were other things that came in and challenged me to almost not want to do it in a sense, because it was so difficult and had so many obstacles. But then when you push through those periods of times, then you start to see the reward. But that's the breaking point for a lot of people. It makes it very difficult to want to continue when you come across challenge after challenge after challenge. But that's the difference between people who make it to the top and people who sometimes don't achieve their goals. And that's what I've learned throughout my life. And there's many more lessons, but I think those are just some valuable pearls of wisdom.
Very. So for people who may not have followed you much since the gold medal in Atlanta and maybe seen you on the news testifying or speaking out and some of that, can you give us a brief update of what have you been, what's your life now? I see the
oh my goodness,
for over there.
Right, yes. So over a decade of advocacy in creating safer sport, just in a sense, I've been working on advocating for our sport for 10 years, just over 10 years actually, to keep our sport safer, make sure that we're having guidelines in order for children to practice gymnastics safely due to the Nassar situation that happened. It's, it was just devastating to see that happen. And I was one of the few people who spoke up about, abuse in our sport. And that's when nobody wanted to listen. And I certainly got severe backlash for over 10 years. Financially, and it affected my livelihood in a big way, but I stayed the course and I never backed down. And I hold that kind of as a badge of honor these days, because it would have been easy to succumb to the pressure and say, oh no, I'm just gonna change my mind because I'm not getting invited here, I'm not getting paid anymore, I'm having struggles to find work. And so, but I never did that. I stayed honest to the truth, and the truth eventually did come out. And so that was a sense of vindication, so to speak, but it doesn't make up for all those years. So I decided I had to find in my own way in life and claw my own way back into some type of a livelihood. And I did, and I fought the hard way, but the right way, and the path of truth. And so little by little, I thought, okay, all of this labor of love has to direct me somewhere. And I started a path on my yoga teacher training journey. I got my 200-hour, and then recently I became a master yogi. So I have my 500-hour yoga certification. I became a level 2 Reiki master. So that's something that I've been working on as well. And then I also opened up my gymnastics and yoga program, trying to really do everything that I've preached all these years and make sure that I'm implementing it in the physical sense. And that's been just honestly the biggest labor of love, because it's rewarding in so many ways, but it is endless hours of work and dedication. But I love seeing my athletes do well and thrive. And after about 1.5 years, we opened up a competitive program, and really just striving every day to be our best and do it the right way and make sure that athletes are placed first, their well-being, their injury prevention pathways, and just making sure that we're attentive to the body language and the signals that the athletes give us. And I really take a lot of pride in that, because I work very hard to keep our athletes healthy, safe, and also I delegate. If anyone needs a sports psychologist, nutritionist, I send them to get that professional guidance if they need it. And so I feel that, you know, our system is coming along very well here at Dominique Moceanu Gymnastics Center, and Carmen's Yoga Studio is named after my daughter, Carmen. And recently I had a newborn. So 2 high schoolers, actually, because my son skipped the 7th grade. So he was able to advance into the 8th grade. So I have 2 high school freshmen starting, and I have a newborn. So yes, life is always eventful around my neck of the woods.
You know, I think a lot of people know you're of Romanian heritage, and so many young girls, you know, look up to you and all, but there's another great gymnast of Romanian heritage, and I'm sure you looked up to, was Nadia Comaneci your idol or heroine, or tell us about that.
Well, Nadia Dominique was certainly an icon in Romania, and my parents grew up in Romania, so I always knew of her. And then later on in life, I became friends with her. So it's pretty, you know, amazing to see that, you know, circle of life kind of happen. And she ended up being an honorary godparent at my wedding when I got married all those years ago. So life has a very interesting way of working itself out. You sometimes meet, you know, idols, and they become your friends, and then all of a sudden you're having them at your wedding. So, you know, our sport is a very small sport in a sense, even though thousands of gymnasts do it. There is a closeness of community sometimes when you start to get into the circle of it all, and you never know who you're going to meet. And so, sure, it was a pretty huge honor. My parents were very, you know, full of pride when we had the chance to meet Nadia and now know her as a friend. And I'm also of Greek heritage. A lot of people don't know, but I'm more Greek Macedonian than anything in my blood. I'm of the Balkans. Ancestry, because I looked it up and I had my blood work done, but my mom always said, yeah, we're much more of Greek descent, but we were, you know, born and raised in Romania, but our grandparents were of Greek Macedonian heritage. So I very much celebrate my Greek side as well. I just never got to be talked about because, you know, people kind of ran with the Romanian story. And sure, that's a big part of my history and part of my culture as well. So I celebrate both, and I grew up with very Greek and churches, as well as Romanian churches, and Greek foods, as well as Romanian foods. So I kind of celebrate both. And, you know, I'm very proud of the heritage that I have. It's allowed me to be very cultured in a sense, because I grew up very, you know, very Romanian, very Greek in our home life. And I was explained the American way once I started school, because I did not even speak English when I started kindergarten. So I celebrate all of the heritage. And now we joke around, my husband is Spanish from Spain and Filipino, so our kids are Roma, Spanapino, Macedonians.
Wow, that to me, that's Cleveland, and that's America, you know, something like that. You know, the Greek community is going to be thrilled to know this. I don't think they know that. And
right.
Of course, we have a Greek cultural garden. We have a Romanian cultural garden. Have you been to the cultural gardens before?
I have not been to the cultural gardens. It's certainly something I've always wanted to do. There's so many places that, you know, as you live somewhere, you say, oh, I'm going to go and I want to go. But I very much am much of a cause. I believe in the cause of peace and intercultural acceptance, and have long wanted to be a part of this event. And I'm very excited to, have the honor of the Grand Marshal. So I hope people come out for the parade on Sunday, August 28th at noon. I hope to see everyone celebrating their culture and also celebrating other cultures.
Yeah, what's it going to be like leading hundreds of marchers representing dozens of heritages down this middle of the street with the mayor there and the bagpipes and the wolfhounds and all?
In a way, I look at it as a mini Olympic opening ceremony kind of, event, because you have a very similar type of situation that you're looking at. You're looking at multicultural flags. You're looking at people walking and parading and, celebrating their culture and their history. And so I kind of look at it that way. And it's a mini Olympic opening ceremony type event. And I think that that's kind of the best way I can describe it.
Well, we're excited because there's about 35 gardens now and about 15 in the works. And of course, there's Greek and Romanian. But marching in the parade this year for the first time will be the Filipino community. So your husband, we don't have Spain yet, but we'll work on that. So it's really it shows Cleveland's diversity. There's about 120 different ethnic groups in town, and we've got your sash ready for you. It doesn't show up good on the Zoom here, but we'll be there Sunday, August 28th. In the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, and our Grand Marshal of the Parade of Flags is Dominique Moceanu, who we've been talking today, and we're very excited and can't wait to see you on Sunday.
We're very excited here. My family's excited, and our gym is excited over in our neck of the woods. So we know it's going to be a fabulous event, and I'm so honored to be the Grand Marshal. Thank you so much for thinking of me, and I hope to see everyone there.